The thing about the microbiome, I guess, that I would probably offer, just if anybody asks me, is to understand how malleable it is, how adaptable and changeable it is, and very rapidly, and to really understand the impact that given foods have on the microbiome. So a good example, sugar. Sugar absolutely has a very negative effect on the gut microbiome. It advantages certain species, particularly the Clostridia, over other species, and then the metabolites of those bacteria are not good. You get lipopolysaccharide, you get all these things that aren't good. You get inflammation, and that's not a good thing. And conversely, there are very specific dietary factors that have a very beneficial effect on beneficial bacteria in the gut. And these changes happen rapidly, and they affect a global spectrum of things, notably cravings. Like you can rapidly I think I get this email from one school of thought, which is fighting cravings, and you have to fight cravings. And no, you can steer cravings. It's a much better idea. You can steer cravings by steering bacteria, and it can be done pretty quick. You can make yourself crave. You can go from craving sugar to craving salads, and it's not that hard to do. You can go from just by changing the bacteria in the gut by giving them the right substrate, and there's good research on it, and it affects everything rapidly. So as a skill, as far as skills go, like an indispensable skill that will help the average person make a dramatic difference over time is just simply understanding how to rapidly fine tune the bacteria in the gut.
Yeah,
it's a very, very simple thing.
Yeah, it's like, because a lot of the time when people, let's say, they do fall off the wagon and they have like a cheat day or something, and they're not properly prepared for that, then the next following days they're gonna crave these additional junk foods because they restructure their microbiome to start craving those foods again. Whereas if they're on a diet for like weeks and weeks, then they actually like the healthy foods because the microbiome has adjusted, and it's got just a kind of this. Goes to show how big of an effect the gut has on the brain and or just decision making in general.
Yeah, it's very, very, very profound. One of the key signature things to that whole thing, like the way that that you've done a good job, is through nausea. And what you'll consistently see is when you have done a good job of shifting the biome in the gut, and then you have sugar, you're going to get nauseated. And the reason you're getting nauseated is because you are suddenly advantaging the dysbiotic bacteria. Well, they're spinning up, they're growing rapidly. And what they're doing is they're displacing commensal bacteria. And as they displace those commensal bacteria, their gut's still open, they still let the polysaccharide into your gut, which is the exact same thing that happens when a fever breaks. Your body heats up, it kills bacteria, the guts break open, you feel nauseated, you want to go throw up. And it's the same thing that happens. So that's how you can know. And it's also like a really good deterrent to eating like crappy food. Like you can just retune the gut. And to your point, that's what happens. So you go out, you have a day off the wagon, you eat whatever. Well, getting back to the idea of skills, an essential skill is understanding how to recompensate and retune the gut after you have that cheat day. And by doing that, you skip a lot of the bacteria-induced sort of like, oh, I need more.
Yeah. What are some examples of that? How do you, let's say, first, or let's start off with like just the healthy bacteria in general. Like, are there any specific bacteria, and what kind of foods help to grow those?
Yeah, well, the ones I talk about most in my book are bifidobacteria and Akkermansia for different reasons. Akkermansia is not the only bacteria that is in the gut lining. There's Fecobacteria prosnitzi, there's Thetomicron, but there's a very few that are commensal in nature. And I focus on bifidobacteria in my book because it seems to feed a lot of other things through cross-feeding reactions. And it seems to be really associated with gene activation in lean people and all sorts of really great things. So those are kind of the two that I really focused on because they're sort of easy to target. And bifidobacteria is a big family and has a lot of different strains. But generally speaking, it loves color pigments, so it loves phenols. Phenols feed it really well. So these are your dark, anything dark. Could be like sweet potatoes, could be blackberries, could be raspberries, could be anything dark. Loves inulin, loves like certain types of more dense fibers, loves like beta glucan, loves these things. So cellulose, hemicellulose, all that stuff seems to feed it pretty well. And so that makes this argument for, things in the diet, things like cabbage, things like asparagus, things that feed it that direction. Akkermansia is kind of the upfront thing in my book that I talked about, where we go right after the gut lining initially. And Akkermansia is very, very difficult to feed directly. But there do seem to be probably a couple ways that, better than others that we can probably feed it. We can probably feed it with pomegranate. We can probably feed it with apple, the anthocyanins in apple skins, alpha-3 galactoside, and probably indirectly through human milk oligosaccharides. We can feed it that way. And so those are kind of the big two that I talked about.